Something I think often gets lost when watching anime are its themes. After all, when you sit down to watch a show, you're looking for entertainment. Whether it be in the form of mind-numbing hentai fat material or psychological brain-fuggling shit, you're there for a purpose. To be entertained. Most shows' only goal is to fulfill that purpose. Well, that and make tons of cash. If it succeeds in doing so, then great. We set out with the goal in mind and accomplished it. Case closed, right? Unfortunately, we've only scratched the surface. Get it? Ocean pun? Beyond just the mind-numbing entertainment, a show's themes can really make the difference between good and great. It's what resonates with you, it's what makes you think, it's what makes you sound like a dick when you try to act all deep and shit. Nagi no Asukara is a shining example of how to properly convey a theme without A, bashing it over your head with a baseball bat, or B, trying to be as deep as, I don't know, the sea? If you're wondering how many ocean puns I can make in one video, trust me, you won't even see them coming. Today, under the scope, I take a look at Nagi no Asukara, or Nagi Asu, A Lull in the Sea. An incredible romantic drama you won't want to miss. Long ago, humans lived in the sea. Many longed for the surface world, however, and abandoned the ocean, casting aside their special power to live underwater. Fast forward to modern day, and humanity is divided between those who left for the surface and those who stayed behind. Our main quartet live in the undersea village of Shio Shishio, but are forced to attend school on land after theirs closes down, forcing these two worlds to collide. It's your classic coming-of-age story executed to near perfection. How can I say this as clearly as possible? Nagi Asu's story is absolutely brilliant. The pacing at the start may be slow for some, but you have to consider what the first few episodes are trying to accomplish. When you have a story that's so centered around its world, the story is less about events that are happening and more about discovering how this world works, i.e. what the hell's going on. Once you've got your world established, you can change it, transform it. Nagi Asu's first half accomplishes this exceptionally well, allowing the second half to focus on how the characters respond to that change. Speaking of which, the execution of this theme of change is unbelievable and insanely intricate. Fear of change is a huge character motivation, and Nagi Asu really drives their point home. Change isn't something you can stop or prevent. It's inevitable. Everything and everyone are constantly changing, even a world frozen in time. Nagi Asu is one of the few shows I've seen that manages to pull off a time skip almost flawlessly. I won't venture too far into specifics for fear of spoilers, but change is ever present in this world, and the driving force behind the plot. The writing is fantastic as well, managing to create a strange yet beautiful world inhabited by an abundance of intriguing characters. I cannot stress how much I loved the setting enough, especially considering how apprehensive I was going in. I mean, sea people? Really? The gorgeous scenery helps, but it's the setup that really grabbed me. Hook, line, and sinker. I'm sorry, people. I can't do this. Sorry. It drops you right in the middle of the world, slowly filling in the blanks as you get more and more entranced. Sort of similar to Shinsekai Yori, just not as dark. Like Shinsekai Yori, you almost immediately get the feeling that something's off, just brewing under the surface. The way the early story arcs end up foreshadowing future events in the second half is brilliant, and most of the plot twists were totally unpredictable. Of course, not everything about it was great. It gets sort of repetitive in the middle. For instance, in Akari's arc, I thought they resolved the main conflict at least 3 different times before it was still an issue in the next episode. Same goes for the will they won't they back and forth on whether they were going to do the Ofuneki ritual, which, again, I felt like the same conflict happened at least 3 different times. This never became too much of an issue, but really slowed down the story before the midpoint climax. For a show that was as much about the inevitability of change, it was also a little bit disappointing to get an end that was so status quo. It definitely left me a little bit unsatisfied, but not much. This show is dripping with drama, and I understand that's not for everybody. This shouldn't come as a surprise, really. After all, we are talking about the studio that brought you Angel Beats and True Tears, and the writer that brought you Anohana. Nagi Asu handles the overwhelming amount of drama impressively well, however, never venturing too far into the dreaded melodrama, at least not in my opinion. For every one thing Nagi Asu's story missed the mark on, it nailed it on at least 20 others. Great writing, an engrossing plot brimming with believable drama, a thoughtful message by the end, and an incredible world. Nagi no Asukara is simply one of the best stories this genre has to offer. Nagiyasu has a huge cast. At least 8 different characters could be classified as main characters. This is a romantic drama first and foremost, so the characters are arguably the most important aspect. Main character Hikari initially comes off as a whiny brat, but quickly morphs into the most likable character in the series. His growth over the course of the first 6 episodes is remarkable and changed my opinion of him completely. Another character I really liked was Chisaki, whose story arc in the second half of the show really resonated with me. She, more so than any other character, really drove home the theme of change. Her denial and fear of change made for some of the best moments in the series, and a thoroughly intriguing, occasionally depressing story arc. Manaka is also worth mentioning as another character that initially annoyed me. Easily the most childish of all the characters, her inability to do anything for herself drove me mad for the first few episodes, but things quickly changed once the show delved deeper into her story. By the end, I was surprised at how emotionally attached I found myself to her character. Rounding out the rest of the main cast, I would have liked to see more screen time and development for Tsumugu and Kaname, but this was more of a minor issue. Miyuna and Sayu initially appeared to be secondary characters, but things quickly changed in the second half. Miyuna proves to be one of the 2 or 3 most important characters in the entire series. Nagiyasu does a superb job with its large supporting cast, all of which serve to add depth to the world. Seeing as how this is a romantic drama, you're probably wondering about the romance side of things right about now. There's love triangles, and then there's love polygons. Nagiyasu actually manages it extremely well though, despite all that insanity. Everything felt believable. Sure, I didn't much care for a few of the potential relationships, but I can't deny that the character interactions and dynamics were handled to near perfection. Overall, Nagiyasu has a great cast with only a few poor spots. Some of the characters could have used more screen time, and the romantic soap opera of who likes who was a bit too complicated for its own good. Nevertheless, Nagiyasu is an example of character development done right. For a show so focused on change, it's fitting that the character growth was handled so well. How can I describe Nagiyasu's animation with any word other than beautiful? The backgrounds are just absolutely breathtaking. Also of note is the animation of the water. The lighting is fantastic, and everything about the water aesthetics are great, especially Shio Shishio itself. Seriously, this animation is on par with some of the best studios out there. PA Works did a hell of a job. The soundtrack is a shining example of music that fits the mood of the show. It does a great job of making the atmosphere and matching the aquatic setting with some tracks, while others are simply beautiful, mostly serving to add to the emotion on screen. Considering how emotional the story itself is, this soundtrack is a perfect fit. As for the openings and endings, Nagiyasu has 2 of each, all of which I thoroughly enjoyed. They each fit their respective half of the show to perfection, but my favorite would have to be the first opening due to Rei's wonderful vocals and an aquatic vibe that's a perfect match. Nagi no Asukara did most things right, but the one area where I can't even come up with a single complaint is animation and sound. I only need one word to describe both. Just beautiful. Nagi no Asukara's message is something few shows manage to pull off. For starters, it actually has one, but the symbolism and subtlety of its themes set it apart. Change isn't about age or the passing of time, it's something much deeper, something genuine. In the first half, the adults act like children and the children like adults. There's a really powerful message about racism and segregation. Whether you're from the sea or land doesn't matter. You're still human, still the same. The self-imposed division between the 2 groups serves as an interesting parallel to segregation, but ultimately Nagiyasu demonstrates that while it's important to hold on to your culture and roots, hatred and conflict couldn't be more ridiculous. Everyone is still human. In the second half, it's those whose time is frozen that change, while those who get left behind are frozen in time. It's an interesting parallel that plays out wonderfully, though the ending was a bit unsatisfying as I would have liked to have seen more. Regardless, whether it's the outstanding execution of its themes or the incredible world and setting, Nagiyasu has a hell of a lot more positive attributes than it does negative. So with that, I award Nagi no Asukara an approval rating of Watch, and an overall score of 4.45 weird fish curses out of 5. As tempted as I was to give it a best of the best rating, its few issues and somewhat unsatisfying finish keep it just barely out of Watch. Still, it's an all-around great series with fantastic drama, likable, relatable characters, beautiful animation, and a superb soundtrack. It might not be for everybody, but I wholeheartedly recommend it nevertheless. If you're looking for something similar to Nagi no Asukara, I point you towards Anohana, another drama from the same writer that's 100 times more depressing and, in my opinion, one of the best anime out there. Also take a look at the previously mentioned Shinsekai Yori for a less romantic, much darker story with a similar feel of mystery to the world. And that's all for me. For an explanation of the rating system, look in the description. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.